What is something your current or past employer would not want the world to know about their company? I worked at a Denny's. One of my supervisor's children was conceived in the walk-in cooler. We incorrectly installed the seat safety bracket mounts in over 750,000 cars, and there will be no recall. I worked at a jewelry repair shop where all repairs were done with 10k gold instead of matching the carat of the ring. I worked at a beverage plant years ago that made Arizona iced tea, Tropicana, Nantucket nectars, etc. There was one drink that we produced and the label said, made with spring water, and it was. Each 600 gallon batch that we made had exactly 1 gallon of spring water poured into the tank. Bank of America. Tellers are all about sales. It is highly unlikely that any of the products they advise you to sign up for are good for your financial situation. Many times they will actually be detrimental. But the position is a sales position, not just a friendly face to help you with transactions. I work in a shipping company warehouse. Fragile stickers don't do anything for your package until it's in the courier's hands. Maybe your shipped items are going to get beat the duck up. Wrap it 5x in bubble wrap. If you think you're being too cautious, you're not. Warehouse workers don't care. Your packages are going to be loaded into a hauling truck, stacked in no specific order, slammed around while transported, then throwing around by workers sorting them. I'm sure this is already common knowledge. Just a friendly reminder before the holiday season comes full swing. I worked for Blockbuster. Those collection notices you would get in the mail? Yeah. Those were fake. We didn't have a collections agency. They were just meant to scare you and didn't hurt your credit. Source: my store manager. I used to work for Sears. The week before our Black Friday sale, we had to mark everything in the store up. I specifically remember marking the treadmills up an extra $500. Then for Black Friday, we marked them back down about $200. They were on sale for an extra $300 than they normally would have been. I used to work at Publix and I have nothing. The store I worked at was of high quality, fair to their workers, and followed all the rules. I guess that's kind of a story in its own right. Spring water bottling plant. Tank was found to have bacterial content above regulation safe levels. They chose to finish the night's run before cleaning the tank. Buy a water filter. Home Depot has recycling bins out in front of the building, but everything ends up in the same dumpster at the end of the day. I worked at an Orange Julius for 4 years. The fresh orange juice you guys pay $6 for is half fresh orange juice and half concentrated orange juice. I worked at an IVF lab, fertility center, in a major city in the United States. Our center was on the medium-large end, doing about 2,000 IVF cycles per year. They wouldn't want the public to know this. Exactly what everyone fears will happen, happened. More than once. An embryo belonging to one patient was transferred to a completely different patient's uterus. You hear about this in the news occasionally, but for every case that is published, there are a few that don't go public and just quietly settle with the patient. In college, I worked at a RITI, independent movie theater. One of the employees was a serious cokehead. After a show, he'd go into the theater and pick up several popcorn tubs and drink cups. He'd shuffle those back into the stacks behind the concessions counter. He'd resell them, not tally them in the count, and pocket the cash. Ducker was nasty. The old hotel I worked at wouldn't change the sheets if they weren't dirty. Told to use moldy pepperoni at the Little Caesars I used to work at. I used to work for a tanning salon. With that said, I'm pretty sure the owner would not like anyone to know that the sun is free. Ancestry.com would destroy books they had digitized because they didn't have the storage space. That place infuriated me. My old employer did a donation drive to support the soldiers back at the beginning of the Iraq War. We had 3 huge boxes full of all kinds of stuff. Soap, shampoo, books, magazines, DVDs, the works. When the owner found out how much it was going to cost to ship all of that overseas, he said duck that and divvied up everything to all his favorite employees. I still feel a little rage when I remember that. Universities function on the back of a lot of exploitative labor. This entire thread seems like a series of lawsuits just waiting to happen. I used to work at a Subway and the owner, whenever the drawer was in the negative, take the missing money out of everyone's paycheck that worked that day. Say it was down $3. He would take $3 out of everyone's paycheck. He also took money out of my paycheck from a sandwich he made for a customer who complained that I didn't make it right. $7.67 out of my paycheck. He also never let us take breaks. I once worked 1-1030 with no breaks. I reported him, but nothing ever came from it. I have no clue why. Stockbroker here. Insider trading happens all the time, even on the lowest of levels. The recycle bins at SeaWorld also just get emptied into the dumpster. They are just there to make the visitors feel better. If you're ever looking to buy something from a Cash America porn store, you can tell how long the item's been out and how much the pawn shop has into the item by reading the tag. The date is always printed on the tag. You get a better deal on items that have been on the floor longer. They use a code so an employee can decide how much they can take off if the customer asks. So it goes like this. Mary Louise equals M1, A2, R3, Y4 and so on till you get to E0. So the code will read, Illy or $45. Happy bargain shopping. That at Kansas State University, the FBI has equipment to listen in on all phone calls and data on the network. I worked for a high-end interior designer, and when they would redo clients' bathrooms they would get the best towels money can buy from Walmart. My job was removing the sewn-in tags. I'm self-employed as a Nigerian prince. I don't really have millions of dollars that I need your help transferring to a US account. Sorry. Baskin Robbins. Not a huge secret. Actually a bit of a plus, but you get a lot more ice cream than you should. I scooped practice scoops for training and the weight it's supposed to be is so tiny. General rule was when the manager isn't there to just make sure the customer doesn't see the bottom of the cup. Too many bad food stories. There's some light at the end of this tunnel, guys. It's not at all a secret, but it's definitely not in the recruiting literature. Both of your hands. Both of your feet. One hand and one foot. The sight in both of your eyes. One hand and sight in one eye. Or 1 foot and sight in one eye are worth exactly $250,000. I'm not sure if my company knows about it, but I suspect they do. I work for a shipping company that deals specifically with the delivery of animals. Mostly lab animals, but we get some zoo business. Occasionally some of these animals die during shipping, and we do some paperwork and have them cremated and no one ever misses them. Once I stole a monkey and marked it as dead and burned on the paperwork. I took it because it was a very large monkey and I thought it might make a cool pet. After I got tired of taking care of a huge monkey, I shaved it and took it to a prostitute. I told her it was my deformed younger brother and that I would pay her extra to take his virginity. It cost me a lot of money, but I got her to do it and let me watch. She was trying to pretend she liked it, but she looked sick, and Manny, the monkey, was confused at first, but he really started to get into it. The whole experience makes me sick when I think about it. The fact that I watched and that I did that to that girl. I wonder if she believed it was really my brother or if she just needed more crack. But also when I think about it, I'll laugh so ducking hard. I shot the monkey and left it in the woods afterward. I guess Manny died happy. That all the letters you write to an elected official literally do nothing to change the outcome of a vote. 3-page letters. To a phone call. They don't matter. We already know how the member is going to vote. You're wasting your time. Everyone who can should start throwaways so that we can see some actual company names. And hopefully take a small chunk of business away from all these horrible places. I work for a parking company. Just a little tip. If you get a parking ticket from a private parking agency, you don't have to pay that. None of it gets reported. I worked at Universal Studios theme park in Hollywood in their House of Horrors scare maze as a scare actor. The rules are we don't touch you. You don't touch us. Well, one guy decided to go against the rules, and when I scared him he came at me swinging. I pushed him away from me. He complained about me touching him and got me fired, while Universal gave him a free pass to come back another day. And it's all on camera. I had an internship at one of Merck's production plants over the summer. 6 months prior, A group of chemists were discovered in one of the abandoned facilities cooking meth. They had a pharmaceutical grade lab hidden behind a false wall and were churning out something like 6 figures weekly. Not something you hear from their PR department. That crisp and snappy front end of their web application is backed by a massive spaghetti code, some of it over 10 years old, a nightmare to maintain, and not able to be refactored because the requirements don't even exist anymore. More than convince the readers of this thread to never eat any food that they didn't make themselves or were not there to supervise while it was being prepared. Worked in government a lot. If you see a small section in a department, the staff is likely slammed with a ton of work and is heavily underfunded. If you see a large section in a department, they are most likely overfunded, wasting a ton of money. The full-time staff only works like 4 hours a day, and the full-timers often just hired interns to do the work for them. Nothing too shocking, but working for a consulting company, I can confidently say our clients were billed double or triple what we were worth, especially straight out of college guys. One time, working at Domino's, this lady on the phone pissed off my coworker, so he put a fly in a black olive and put it on her pizza. I told him not to, but he did it anyway. We pretend that pork loins are giant D's out back while you're ordering your cut of meat. When I worked at Walmart, we would throw literally everything in the garbage compactor. Everything includes car batteries, bleach and various household chemicals, large amounts of meat, TVs and other electronics, anything and everything that is easily recyclable. Wendy's chili is made of the old burger meat. My last restaurant didn't have a grease removal service. They would just wait for the sun to go down and dump the used fryer oil in the river behind the parking lot. I work for a government agency. We have several people appointed through cronyism. One of them is a drunk who makes serious decisions about people's livelihoods and how much money they're going to get in certain cases. He fails to get his work done in a timely fashion on a nearly monthly basis and routinely blames the technology. I'm in IT. We finally went to his bosses and told them that it wasn't the tech, it was user error. They said they knew. But for us to just keep placating him because he's friends with the governor. He's on his 3rd laptop and 2nd BlackBerry. Aaron sales and lease interest rate is 49.99%. They will never tell you it is interest though. It is always cost of lease services. They are a ripoff in every way and screwed me over, so duck them. Edit. I was a sales manager there for 3 years, not a customer. I'll give you some things. 1. We are not where we say we are. 2. Remember how we said we're giving you your project at our cost and picking up the freight? Yeah. We're actually making $15,000 in profit off you. 3. We say our place of work has hundreds of employees, but there's only 5 of us. We fake our voices and have tons of fake voicemail boxes and emails set up. When I was a butcher, I cut my palm open and was just told to keep making sausage. A lot of my blood, sweat and tears went into that sausage. I worked at Sbarro's Italian Pizza for a year, and I was the only one to pull off the countertop, where we actually make the food from scratch, to clean underneath. I found an infestation of maggots that had to have been getting into the food we made every day for God only knows how long. I'm the only one who cares about you in your campus cafeteria. If not for me, dozens of wraps with rancid lettuce, sandwiches and salads contaminated with raw meat, and food dropped on the floor and or spit on would have made its way into your mouth. All the chefs are too consumed with their own bruised egos to pay attention to student workers. I work at a Starbucks in an airport. It's a licensed store operated by a company called HMS Host. If an employee calls in sick or goes home early from a shift for any reason, even with a doctor's note, he or she receives points that count toward being fired. At 15 points, you're fired. One day, one of my co-workers told our manager that she was feeling very ill and needed to go home. The manager believed she was sick and told her that she could go home, but she'd get 2 points. My co-worker did not want the points, tried to tough out her shift, ended up passing out, hitting her head on a counter, getting carried out of the store by paramedics, and received the 2 points anyway. This type of policy results in my co-workers and I coming to work with communicable diseases because we don't want to get penalized or fired. As a customer, I wouldn't want a side of pink eye. diarrhea, or strep throat with a fever along with my latte. And as a co-worker, I don't want to catch something at work from sick people. In the past month alone I've worked with a girl who had strep throat and a fever so high she was hallucinating. And another girl threw up twice in the back of the unit because she had the stomach flu with a fever. Strep throat girl called in sick but was asked to come in because we were short-handed. And stomach flu girl came in because she had too many points to call in sick. Does this sound gross to anyone else? Hewlett-Packard barely exists. They've outsourced everything. Production, support, RAND, development, management. They probably outsourced themselves by now. My old manager at Great Clips, Itty Chain Salon, had her best friend working as the assistant manager and allowed her to give blowjobs and have sex with customers in her office if there wasn't any other customers in the shop. Neither of them were young and attractive. They were both mid-40s, overweight and very rude to customers that weren't their regulars. The assistant manager was also married with kids. Don't ever trust market research. Just don't. Cunningham Field and Research Services is one of the many companies which collect responses for companies like Nielsen, etc. And they totally falsify the duck out of their data. Need a 90-year-old woman for your quota? Well, why not use a 15-year-old boy and tell him not to tell anyone? Or, if it's really down to the wire, why not enter it yourself and have the check made out to a friend? I had to quit. The lack of ethics was killing me. The restaurant where I work is well known for their homemade garlic toast. It comes with every entree. If the table doesn't finish their basket of toast, whatever is left in the basket goes back in the warming drawer, and then back out to another table. I always try to encourage people to take it home with them, usually saying something like, "You might as well take it home. We're just going to throw it away and it'll go to waste, just so I don't have to put it back in the drawer." I can't help but think about that one piece of garlic toast that keeps traveling from table to table and never getting eaten and continuously gets recycled. When the potential investors came to visit our startup office, we got our friends who didn't work there to come in and sit at computers and pretend like they were working so it looked like we had more employees. I worked for a major cellular company. Markup on accessories like cases, chargers, cords, etc. are insane. The company might pay somewhere around $1.35 to $4 for something, then sell it for $30 to $50. There is a 1-year warranty and we would usually warranty things out more than once if it was common issue on the accessory, but the product wasn't always much better than what you could find on Amazon or at Walmart for way cheaper. Other than that, there really wasn't much I'd have to say about that company. They were pretty solid. The Kansas City Zoo cooks and serves food that has been dropped on an incredibly dirty floor. They also spill ice on the same filthy floor and then just put it back in the bucket to use in the soft drinks. I work for a company that does work for other large companies like Sears, 7-Eleven, Target, etc. They all think we're also a large company, but in reality we're just two guys working in an unfinished basement. United States military. You would be amazed how many mission critical decisions are made with rock scissors paper. I worked at Best Buy when the Xbox was pretty new. At Christmas, I was forced to bundle the system together with crappy games and controllers and other useless items. He would then only sell them the bundle and hide the single system in the back and tell people the bundle was the only ones left. Most people didn't care. The worst was when a single mom came in with her 2 kids. They were super excited to get an Xbox. I could tell she didn't have much money and this was a big deal. They were all devastated when I tried to give them the $650 bundle. Knowing I would get in trouble, I told them let me check one more time in back. I happened to find one just for them. It took the heat when they tried to check out, but I gave no ducks. Don't get your ears pierced at Claire's. None of their staff are trained on how to pierce ears properly. None of the piercing guns are regularly tested or replaced. When I worked there I had to remove so many wrongly pierced holes because the baby or mom squirmed even just a little bit. It's literally a shot in the dark, and the earrings aren't meant to pierce cartilage. I took my time and read the manual. The rest of the staff did not. They literally just force you to do it without any prior training. Do not get your ears or your child's ears pierced at Claire's. I worked at a Staples a few years back and eventually came to learn that almost every security measure that the store put in place to stop shoplifting was there just for visual prevention. The black globes that hung from the ceiling where cameras normally hung were empty. Just being there was enough, by corporate standards, to prevent any theft. The other thing I learned was that the alarms by the door to leave the store, the ones that would shriek when you left with something that wasn't untagged, were just fakes. They were identical to the real ones. Even had wires coming out of the bottom where they would attach to some sort of power source or alarm. The device was simply empty and the wires would just end, cut off about 24 inches down the line. We were instructed to set them up and tuck the wires someplace that made them look like they're real. The other one that surprised me was while I worked as a self-loathing minion in a Panera Bread. The owners of this particular franchise went to great lengths to make sure people were aware that the store recycled everything that they could. As such, we had a bunch of different bins for trash, plastics, glass, papers and the like. People were pretty receptive of going the extra step or two to separate things out so we could keep the green initiative. At the end of the day, all the bins were emptied into the same dumpster in the back. The whole thing was a farce to pull an eco-conscious business. Back in the 90s, my boss hired an ex-con because the state was offering some sort of tax incentive to hire people out of prison. The ex-con was eventually given keys to one of the buildings. He took 2 girls there after hours and murdered them. Not talked about around the shop much. I worked at a local restaurant where the owners were super big racists. Besides the constant black jokes, I remember 2 big instances of this. One morning a big bus full of people pulls in. As anyone in food service can attest, this is always annoying as hell unannounced. But it's money. Everything is fine until my boss notices the bus is full of blacks. He looks at me and says, "There is no way we're serving these jungle bunnies," and told them we wouldn't serve them without a reservation, which was BS because we did it all the time. Another was when we had a medium-sized group, 10-12, of blacks. They all had gotten steaks and were spending a lot of money. They asked me if I could turn the Bucks game and I said sure and went to get the remote from my boss. He told me I couldn't do other because he didn't want their kind here any longer than they needed to be. Didn't care they were spending a ton of money, just that they were black. This was about 45 minutes north of Milwaukee on 41 in Lomira. Anyone who knows the general area will know the restaurant.